Welcome to another episode of Reece's Reviews, brought to you by mygeekculture.com.au. My name is Matt. I am the owner, proprietor, and all that other stuff, owner of My Geek Culture. And I have our resident reviewer, Geek, and pop culture nerd. He's just like me, but a lot younger and more money than I do. We have
contrary belief on that one, but okay.
Anyway, and he is why that we call this podcast what it is. Reece, we have Reece himself. So welcome back, Reece.
Thank you very much for having me back. I'm looking forward to it. I had a great first episode with you, so I'm really looking forward to what the future brings on this podcast and what we can discuss and go into more detail.
Excellent. Well, the whole concept behind this show being that I dive deep into Reece's Letterboxd account, because he loves his movies. He's he's obsessed with them. So from blockbusters to budget, low independent movies and stuff. And I'm even trying to educate him a little bit too on some particular movie genres as well, mainly Ozploitation stuff, and getting him familiar with some stuff that's his outside of his comfort zone, so to speak. But this episode today is a little bit different. We could be talking about movies, but what has happened over the weekend at the time of this recording was that we had one of a few pop culture expos that goes around, that is set up around Australia, and that is Supanova. So Supanova, while it tours around Australia, this weekend just happened to be Sydney's turn, and being at the Homebush, the Sydney Olympic Stadium Park area, were they 25 years ago? They had the Olympics, so and now but they've been having Supanova held there, which is just Australia's version of Oz Comic Con. That's the rival. Like say New York Comic Con and Emerald City Comic Con and all the other Comic Cons that are in the US, and they're huge and everything. But this is Australia's version of it. So, I attended this as well, but what Reece does is on a religious basis is he buys tickets he does the whole weekend. He dives in headfirst into the VIP experience and does all the meets and greets and sits in on as many panels as possible. Basically, he's got his own do not disturb sign on him while he goes and ventures into meeting a whole bunch of people. And last year he accidentally featured on Channel 7 News meeting Breaking Bad and Mandalorian star.
That was Giancarlo Esposito. That was actually Oz Comic Con, not Supanova, but
damn it.
It was like that just came out of the blue. You just messaged me and just said, "Hey, did you realize you're on the news?" And I went, "What?" And there it was. And then I had to share it around to all my family and friends. And going, "Hey, well, I always said I'll be famous, but being famous, going to a con and seeing myself meeting Giancarlo Esposito was not what I had in mind, but a welcome treat."
Yeah, excellent. Well, you know what? This is where I am going to probe you about. See, I was only at Supanova this year. I was only there on Saturday. I got there at about 10:30 and spent the line ride getting in for half an hour. Finally got in at 11 o'clock, and I went to some of the pop-up stores that were there, got some archival comics that I needed, and then I went down to Artist Alley and met some of my favourite Australian artists and bought their comics, helping out the indies. So
who'd you end up meeting?
I met, in fact, because I'm a regular occurrence to his table now and I love his art, and that is what's his name? Oh my goodness!
Put you on the spot there.
I've just drawn a mental blank. Hold on 1 second. Let me just look here. Oh my
Yeah, well,
God.
that's the thing. While you're doing that, it's very much Artist Alley is, even if you don't read comics or you don't display or like certain things, just going through those different alleys about showing all the different artists about comics and drawings and artistic expression within all things pop culture is definitely wide open. It is amazing things what they do with how they express certain things within pop culture. Like I was at a table today where they had a lot of things to do with Japanese anime, so I'm a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z and Super and things like that. So they'd be able to just change the way you think about artistic expression, about how they love that source material and how they can just put it into a way of art, of means of drawings and what's another thing, they get 3D printing and things like that, and just showing it on display. It's such a great way of community with that point as well. Do you end up finding out who it was?
Yeah, Kieran Jack. So
nice.
My apologies. I had my brain just drew up a complete blank when it came to his surname. So yeah, Kieran Jack.
Nice.
And he does the Talking Bread and the Apparition, which is a parody of the Phantom.
Ooh.
And a few others. So big fan of art, and as well as a few other artists who they either drew for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or they designed their own comic, like one that was glow in the dark, and not just glow in the dark, but you needed a black light to actually see the image of the comic. So it's really, really cool. So I spent some good hard money knowing it's going towards supporting local and independent artists.
Absolutely.
But please break down. Okay, so because you did Saturday and Sunday, we'll start with Saturday. So you got there first thing in the morning, which I noticed. Tagged yourself in on Facebook.
Yep.
Now, what was the first thing that you did?
Well, the first thing that I usually do is just walk the initial floor. I got Super Q this year. I didn't get VIP, so I got Super Q, so I was able to get into the bit of the front of the line. I just walked the alleyway through and just work on the floor and just see the different pop-up stores they've got. This year, they were promoting the Nintendo Switch 2, so they had a big pop-up stand where they were allowing you to go in and play the new Mario Kart and new Donkey Kong and go into this tournament and competitions with that. That was pretty cool. They also did have a way of promoting Audible, where you could go in and do a escape room, and each room was themed to a different book, which I did that the second day, not the first day, with a friend of mine. But just going through the floor and then eventually make my way out to the end of the dome to see where all the autographs and all of the celebrities are going to be, and then you go into the back. So usually a little bit beforehand, I just walk the floor and then eventually make my way into doing my photos and more autographs. I usually do that my first day, and that way the second day is pretty much just going to panels and talking to people and just walking the floor and just experience what Supanova and the cons have to offer. So.
Well, who were the people that you were really keen to see, like the big name stars? Because you got your obvious ones, which if I guess now, originally when they started to appear, and then people were making fun, it's like, oh, it's always the same people all the time. But now it is, if they don't see their names, it's like, well, it's not a Supernova / Oz Comic Con without these people. I'm referring to John Jarrett and Matt Doran and and Lincoln Lewis. So, but a fresh take on who attended this year, such as the Phantoms and Back to the Future's Billy Zane, for example. Then they actually got Evangeline Lilly, who is the Wasp.
From MCU.
And also from Lost.
And Real Steel, and
the whole lot. So she only appeared on Sunday.
Yes.
But and a few others as well. So please enlighten me.
Yeah.
Who did you see on Saturday?
So Saturday, I saw Alex Kingston. She
Yep.
is anyone who's a fan of Doctor Who or ER. She was in that, so I gravitated to her. Yes, I love my Doctor Who. Being introduced to that from my dear friend, but I talked to her about ER. I'm getting into ER. I'm not. It's something I haven't watched when it first came out. My beautiful wife was able to get me introduced to ER quite recently, so we're going through that for me for the first time, and can't recall how many times she's seen it, but being able to speak to her about that, then I went and met and got an autograph by Billy Zane, the Phantom. But I actually, again, didn't talk to him about the Phantom. I talked to him about Titanic, and
Nice.
pretty much I gave him a different interpretation about what other people think of his character in Titanic. So everyone just immediately just thinks that his character in Titanic is the villain, when yes, at the third act of the film he turns out to be a villain. But I kind of take his character in a different light, where pretty much his whole purpose of that film is that yes, he's wealthy, but all he wants to do is have the woman that he's in love with love him back, and allow Rose the chance for him to show that he can provide for her, give her the world that she deserves. She was so suffocated by that side of her life that she fell in love with Jack. So I kind of thought that yes, he went about down it the wrong way, but he's didn't came onto the screen as a villain. He didn't really turn into a full cross villain until towards the end of the second act, when he realized he was losing the love of his life. But a lot of people do really big things and out of the ordinary things when they are faced with losing the one they love the most. And I think and he kind of took aback a bit. I don't think he was expecting that to come from it, but he actually really appreciated the fact that I was one of the few people that actually had a different interpretation of his character in that film, because everyone just comes up and talks about how bad he is. But I went, well, so we went, no, it's not.
That's cruel.
Yeah. And I like the fact that we've got this platform on with yourself, Matt, where I actually want to kind of go into a different way, because coming onto this podcast and being able to do what I love to talk about and doing the entertainment industry and this kind of side of things, being able to talk about all the stars and all that kind of stuff. And I can't really come on to and talk about Supanova without talking about the one person that makes me want to go every year. And you mentioned him just before, which was Lincoln Lewis. So yes, I go for the celebrities that come over from overseas and things like that. But over the last few years, Lincoln Lewis has been the person that I really look forward to talking to every year. He brings so much positivity to anyone who meets him. He gives you the time that you need to be able to talk about anything you want to talk about. He makes you feel like you're best friends in a way, with the limited time you can spend with him, which a lot of people don't. And he allows you just to walk up and talk to him, even if you don't have an autograph paid for and things like that. So he's given me so much confidence over these last few years, both following him on social media and all doing everything he needs to do. I was able to talk to him for a good bit of time over these last 2 days, and showing him a bit of better thing about what I've been going through the last year or so, and building my confidence up on certain points. And he just was very appreciative of that. So I couldn't come and talk about Supernova without talking about the absolute legend that Lincoln Lewis is, and how much he means to his fans. So bit of a put on that, but I didn't want to go on with this kind of discussion with you without talking about that as well. But the entire experience was great. So that was pretty much Saturday, was going to that, going to panels, and going through just the floor as well. And then transitioning to Sunday, that's when I did the escape room at Audible, and going through the different rooms, which I did as well.
Well, actually, you recorded a little piece. It's audible for
Audible.
It's for
I thought that
audible.
was a good twist about how to promote, and how what we're doing on this podcast is not just, you should say, yes, it's Reese's Reviews, but it's different, you and I kind of going back and forwards to different things. And I just thought it was kind of a good tie-in that, well, we're promoting going in and doing Audible, so I thought audiophile for Audible. So,
Yeah. Well, here we go. This is pre-recorded, obviously, of Reece interacting with the escape room.
We're at Sydney Supanova 2025, walking the floor, and we've come by Audible Secret Library. It is a place where you can do an escape room to win a chance to go to New York Comic Con. Let's see what happens when you go inside. You come in here, you fill out a form, and then you got to create solve a puzzle before you go actually into the room. Puzzles were: Object 1, born of desert, God, beast, beware the rhythm of your feet. Number 2, ever watching, never blinking, in a tower tall, forever seeking. Object 3, noble by name, savage by game. She's fluffy, fancy, and frightening. You needed to find out these objects in the little library section before you go into the rooms. What were they? We'll check in later on. We survive the escape room. Now, once you go through the doors, you go through 5 different rooms, all dedicated to a specific book. The first one was the outside, where we had to find different objects on these shelves relating to the clues that we were given, like I said at the beginning. The second one, when we went into the actual room, was dedicated to the fourth wing, or the latest in this series, Onyx Storm, when we had to get 2 dragon eggs and make them scale at the same weight. Then we went into the world of the Hunger Games, into the latest book, where we have to put all 12 districts and what each district brings to the world of Panem. Then we went into space. This is when we had to get these magnetic balls on a maze and get them all through to the holes onto the board within a time frame. And lastly, but not shortly not least, into the Wizarding World, where we had to brew a Polyjuice potion with the ingredients. Now, each room had a great 20 seconds of an audio book from what this whole thing is about. Audible. Fantastic experience, and at the end, we got a chance to get a QR code and go into the running to attend New York Comic Con. What a great experience. Thank you, Supanova Sydney.
Now, if you win this New York Comic Con trip, are you going to take me there?
I don't know.
Am
What
I
do I
your
get? What
plus
do I get
one?
out of it?
You get someone who's really cool to hang out with.
Sold. Well, think about it. I'm going to be in the area anyway, so.
Well, but other than that, so that the Audible escape room was pretty neat.
Yeah,
it sounded
was
pretty cool.
Absolutely,
I walked past it and I didn't get to do it, but
it is a bit of a line. But it took about half an hour. But once you get through the line and you sign up and you get in, it's about a 45-minute experience. So.
But no, that's really cool. And did you enjoy making the potion for the Harry Potter?
Yeah, well, when you get into that final room, it gives you, like I said, it snippets certain parts of because it's promoting Audible. It puts an audio part of that audio book that room is promoting into the experience. Pretty much what it allow you to do in this one, it actually gave a section of Goblet of Fire where Harry is talking to Snape about the different parts of the Polyjuice potion, so you have to listen a little bit. You kind of throw it away in a little bit when it comes to the what the Audible is saying, because you're kind of enjoying it, and then you realize, hang on, I'm going to have to pay attention because the ingredients that you need, because you've got, I think it's like 60 seconds to figure out all the ingredients, those 7 ingredients to make a Polyjuice potion, which we eventually end up getting because they make it a bit more easier than it usually is. But it was definitely a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun.
Have you done escape rooms before?
Yeah, I've done a few. They are definitely hard, depending on which one you go to, and depending who you go with. So you need someone who's kind of a bit more switched on, who's not just going to go and let somebody else do all the hard work. But it's definitely a friend. What I did do, there's a local one in here, southwestern Sydney and Penrith. It's a virtual one, which is it's very different. It's almost like a video game more so, but they work it the way you have to really work together to get out of the room within a time frame. If you have one person not willing to make the work, you can't progress through the actual stages of the game in a way, because they need both people to work together to get up. So I find that was a lot more fun. If you want to get a good experience with get people together and have some fun and camaraderie in that point, it's great for like work Christmas parties and things like that. I definitely would recommend. I think it's called Freak, and it's in where the iFly is down in Penrith.
And what were your activities when Supanova had closed for the day on Saturday?
Well, usually in past years, I would attend the sunset after party on the week, which they hold on site. The last few years, they held it on site, where it's a 2.5 hour event where you stay after hours and you go up to you go into a room, and they provide nibblies and drinks and alcohol, and then the stars come up and they can work with you in a lot more relaxed and social setting away from everything else. That's what they usually do. This year, I didn't go in with that because they sold out that quick. Because this year was actually a lot busier than what they had the previous years. Because the two reasons, for my opinion, was Critical Role, which I didn't realize what that was until they announced who they were. Announced they were coming, which is voice actors doing online D&D. They were huge. It's the first time in years where they had their panel today, and pretty much today was the second day, but in yesterday, where they've actually had to turn people away from their panel because they've reached capacity.
Wow.
And they also just did 2 nights at the ICC in Sydney and sold them out too.
Incredible.
I never heard of them, but I knew of Ashley Johnson, who is the voice actress who plays Ellie in The Last of Us. So I knew about her, but I didn't know about Critical Role until she was coming. Plus, they had 3 actors from Outlander as well. Wow. So it's one of the biggest ones they've had this year, and it was so busy yesterday. I could barely move in a lot of places. It was so hard to get through. It's one of the busiest ones.
Tell me about Sunday. So who did you bump into on Sunday? As in, who did you see? What stars did you end up meeting and getting autographs and stuff?
I only got the one today, which was Evangeline Lilly. She was beautiful. I do feel sorry for her, but this just proves how much she is dedicated to her fans. They put it up on a post that she couldn't attend her Q&A panel because she actually was suffering from a concussion. And so
that's horrible.
Yeah. So I had my photo with her, and she's sitting on a stool, and I felt so blessed to being able, the fact that she was able to still provide that connection with her fans with the photos and the autographs. She just couldn't do her panel. So I feel, and I want to send my heartfelt best wishes to Angela. I hope she gets better and recovers and everything in that manner. But also want to send her a big thank you for soldiering through and giving all your time. It's definitely appreciated. And us Aussies would always welcome you back if you ever want to do come back. So yeah, Evangelina Lilly was a spirit of the moment thing. I was happy with just getting Billy Zane and Alex Kingston, but then I came in today and I realized, no, I actually do love the MCU. I do love Ant-Man the Wasp. I love the Wasp character, and I also do love her film Real Steel with Hugh Jackman. We spoke last episode. He's my number one. So just her character in that was a good rate of fun in that film as well. So yeah, that was me today. And yeah, just relaxing, chilled out today. Went to a few panels. Went to Alex Kingston's panel. She was a lot of fun. She actually interacted a lot with the crowd and played some games. And she ended up asking questions to the actual audience. And if she got it wrong, she actually threw bananas at the crowd as a prize. So she got a question right. She threw it. And then towards the end of the panel, she got people who were cosplaying as the Doctor and as River's Song brought them to the front. And then because at the moment we're in transition with the Doctor because they've now regenerated to a new one, she brought 5 people up and then she goes, okay, and this is your audition. And she got a scene from one of her first episodes with David Tennant's Doctor and got these River Songs and Doctors to do a little scene and got the crowd to vote on who was the best. They went, okay, this is your Doctor, your new Doctor, and kind of interacted with the crowd that way. So she was very much energetic and definitely had a lot of crowd interaction in that point as well. So she was a great panel to go to. And Lincoln Lewis is just amazing as always. I go to these panels every single year. So, yeah, very much a fun. Definitely, it was also a bit exhausting this time. I actually left a bit earlier than I normally would both those days, but I think just because yesterday was so busy, I had to get out of there because it was eventually getting a bit more tiring. And then today, got to a bit into the afternoon, needed to do what I needed to do and saw what I needed to see, and had a great weekend as always. But I think by the time, because of the amount that it was this year, it was good.
Well, I was going to ask, what would have been your highlight over the weekend? What was the best moment or thing or person or whatever? You have to choose one highlight. What would it be?
Well, not to do what I did before, but my reaction with Lincoln Lewis. That is
cool.
My highlight.
And what would be the least favorite?
Well, you can't.
I know that's hard. Hard. Okay. What were you unfortunately disappointed by, if that makes sense? And I know you're a very positive person. So what was the one thing that you've just gone, oh, maybe next year okay, actually, I'll put a spin on this. Who was meant to come? Like there's always naturally cancellations.
Yeah.
Who would you have wanted to see, but unfortunately had to cancel for whatever reason?
Katie Sackhoff. Sackhoff. She was when she got announced. She was the one person I was going, was a hands down want to meet, want to do all that kind of stuff, and then she pulled out. I went. So yeah, that was I think the bit of a kick in the gut that I went. Yeah, I really wanted to meet Katie Sackhoff this year when she got announced, and yeah, but hopefully she does come back. She's been planned to come every few years, and then unfortunately something's come up when she had to cancel and things like that. So hopefully she will make a way.
She's in demand.
She is very demand. I listened to her podcast that she's got, which is a Sackhoff show, and she does a lot of conventions around, like goes to all around the States and does Longmire and Battlestar Galactica conventions and things like that, and then goes to Europe and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so hopefully she will make her way back down under.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit harder to come to Australia. It's a little bit of a longer flight, so
it's only 17, 18 hours.
Yeah, that's easy. A few frequent flyer points, all good. But for someone who hasn't experienced Supanova before, and you're a veteran, what would you suggest or recommend? Well, what are your tips really for someone who wants to attend for the first time? What would you recommend? Okay. One when they don't have a budget, and one with a budget. Go with no holds barred. Money is no object.
Well, that's the thing. They changed their ticketing a couple of years ago. So I would actually say to a lot of people, don't worry about the VIP. Yes, I think the big thing about the VIP is you get literally front row for all the panels, and you get in front of everybody with the autograph lines and the photo lines. But I would actually say this is specifically relating to Supanova. I will say stick to the Super Q. It's not that expensive in a way, because yes, the main thing you're getting out of it is you're getting front line behind VIP, but in front of the general queue for the photos and autographs and the panels. So you're getting that, which is a huge time saver for you. So you got no holds bars, and you're getting all your autographs from everything you want to, whoever you want to see, and the photos of whoever you want to see. That Super Q comes in handy because you can go from one to the other, and you can line up your photos with these stars back to back in a way, because you can pretty much not have to worry about sitting in lines for hours on end because you've got the Super Q. So you save your money in that point, but you also get the same kind of A-list kind of experience. And then you get the same thing when you go to the panels. And then with the changes that they've done, you can also, when you buy your Super Q, get the ticket to go to the Sunset After Party, which is a bit of an extra. So you can actually not get the big VIP, which they actually taking away some of the benefits of that, and just buy Super Q and the Sunset as a ticket separately, and then buy your autographs on top of that. Because there are some years where you might not want to get signatures and signatures and photos with everybody. You might be maybe one or two, or there might be 3 or 4 or 5, depending on who's going to be there. So, and with VIP, you can only get 2 photos and 2 autographs now, and they're limited to how much you can spend on them. So
it constantly changes. So I guess the best way to do it is monitor their website, like the Supanova's website, just to see what they've got available, because they always take feedback on board every year.
Yeah, they do.
Or every convention, they go, okay, what have we done wrong, or what have we done that's great, and so it's always a ever-changing, evolving convention every time they hold one.
I think one of the biggest things that I'm not saying it's the biggest thing, but one of the things they implemented this year, which I think Oz Comic Con has been doing it for a couple of years now, is they actually have introduced digital photos. So usually when you get your photos with your stars, you get a physical photo and that's it. Now you can actually get the digital along with the physical, where you never had that before. So they've actually introduced that there to now. Plus, Supanova has its own app. So you can actually schedule all your photos and your things on your phone, and so you can keep track of where you need to be and do what you need to do through the app as well.
Genius marketing.
So
it's very efficient.
Yeah, I used it very much efficiently today because I had a few panels back to back, and along with my photo with Angeline. So it definitely benefited me. And you can put reminders, and it pops up on the reminder saying 15 minutes to this panel and do that kind of stuff. So they definitely taken some, like you said, some feedback, and they've adapted and they're doing better. So, and
then once you get the digital version too, you can quickly download it and share it on your socials. Yeah.
Sometimes it works. So I've got a photo of Angeline. It still hasn't popped up. I can go onto the digital side and get it and see it on that point, but then you got to click on send, and it should send you an email so you can then view it as a digital. I still haven't got Angeline, so
there's still a bit
there's
of
still some bugs in the crinks, but I've got 2 out of the 3. So, but I'm very much more of a physical person myself anyway. So I do like having the digital, but having folders with all my photos and signatures in it, I kind of like going back and looking at them all. So that's just me. So
so someone on a budget, a simple entry, like me would have. I just paid the basic for the entry. Yeah. And I just did my thing, and then there's plenty of free things to experience and witness as well.
Absolutely is. So if you are on a budget, and depending on where your fandom is, I think that's the biggest thing. If you're someone who is like yourself, Maddie, where you're very much interested in local artists, comic books, literature like books and things like that, getting the general queue would be beneficial for you. You can save a lot of money with just getting the weekend pass and be completely fine with that. If you're going to then wanting to get photos and autographs from the superstars that are there, you're going to be, depending on the stars, you are expected to wait some time in those lines if you have general queue. That is a given. So if you are on a budget, I'll say save up at least to get the super queue. That way you can get at least into front of the line for your panels, behind VIP. You can do all that kind of stuff. And then if you have extra money left over and if you can splurge on certain stars you want to get photos and autographs with, then you get an extra with that, with the super queue being able to get right in the front of the queue. So my personal thing with that would just say stick to the super queue and then budget from there.
Well, I did actually go to one of the artists, the Artist Alley, and her name is Lauren Marshall, who has drawn for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Phantom comics.
Okay.
Yeah. And she also does an independent comic as well, Maurice in the Middle, and it's a really good comic. And so I paid $10 for a comic and $5 for a Krang, from the Ninja Turtles.
Yep.
A bookmark. And so that cost me $15, and she also autographed my comic. So
nice.
So Lauren Marshall's an artist, an independent illustrator from Perth. So So it was really nice and I had a nice chat, and it was just a nice one-on-one. And even if you don't necessarily buy anything from those artists or anything like from the stalls because, budget restraints or whatever, they still appreciate the chat, and that it gives them a good feeling that's like, hey, my art's being appreciated. Because
and even if you don't buy anything there, because you're taking the time to speak to them, they can see that you are passionate and they actually appreciate the what you're providing them as a fan. It doesn't mean just because you haven't bought them then, you've put them also more on your radar, so you can then provide it to other people. Because I find some of the biggest publicity at any point in entertainment, whether that be art, film, music, is word of mouth. Word of mouth is so important for anything to get established and get a good, and nothing, when it comes to being a good reputation for something being good or bad, nothing works best or worse than word of mouth. So if you go into this artist and having a speaker to having a good rapport with them and love the material that they're providing, you would then come on, like, for example, talk to myself. I went, oh, okay, I might go check them out. And then that's how word spreads, and you can get so much more of an influence out of that. And then, yes, you might not have bought straight away, but then you would have given like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 different people that person onto their radar and would have bought their material. And then she can go ahead and be a huge star and go work for Marvel and make more comics like that way.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Well, we won't give it a rating system because it is an event, So, but if we do have to give a rating just to keep in theme with this podcast, what would you give your 2 days worth out of? And like, it's only because it all depends on what ranking you got and what you plan to get out of it.
Yeah.
So this is like it's not really counted as a rating, but what would you do if it was a rating? Out of 5.
Out of 5, we'll keep to our theme of letterbox and star ratings and things like that. I would definitely give this year's Supanova, I would give it an easy 3.5, close to 4, but I would say definitely it would be a solid 3.5. Definitely would take down those 1.5 just for the fact of something that's out of Supanova's control. It was the sheer amount of people and just the crowds, and sometimes they couldn't manage certain things very well because they didn't expect so much people around it.
Yeah, I kind of experienced that with the lineup where it was the way that they kind of had things looped around. That wasn't marked properly, and then some people were trying to cut corners and.
Yeah, and some of
why cut corners? The line's moving, it's shifting. Don't be an idiot and ruin it. I would give my time that I had with it. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. It was beautiful winter weather as well. And from my brief period of time there, I had plenty of space. Artist Alley was cramped as all hell, but that means it was just a major success. But
should have been there today then.
Yeah, I only have so much battery to deal with. That's for my social anxiety. So
it was a lot.
Yeah, it gets drained pretty quickly.
Yesterday, the first day, Saturday, was chaotic. Today was a lot less people there today, so I was able to walk through the main floor and Artist Alley, not as squished as I was yesterday. So definitely. The first day is usually the busiest, and the second day, because it's a Sunday, it's not as bad. But I also felt for the volunteers, especially in the photo booths, because a lot of them didn't realize what was going on at certain times, and some people running a bit late and having to get people through, and it was just I was trying to be as sympathetic as I possibly can when I was talking to the volunteers, because they were kind of a fish out of water in their own point. So, but yeah. I can understand the rating of 4, but I personally would kind of put down a 3.5, because the 3.5 is having the amazing experiences that I always have with on the floor and the panels, chatting up with people that I see every year. That when you're in a crowd, when you always go Super Q or VIP, you get the same people kind of going every year. So we kind of go, hey, welcome back, and kind of doing those kind of camaraderie. And yeah, I think the biggest part for me from this year, if I'm going to finish off this kind of experience of Supanova, is I hate to be a broken record, is just having that one-to-one with kind of Lincoln and giving him my appreciation to everything he's provided me with his social media and kind of interacting with me over that and giving me that strive to do better and have a great time and positivity and all that kind of stuff that he's inspired me. And that kind of brought me onto here, because being able to going back and forwards with talking with that, these kind of stuff with yourself, he's giving me that confidence boost. So he's doing a lot of change even without him knowing. So that was my biggest takeaway from today.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Reece's Reviews. So again, Reece, thank you so much for your recap of Supanova. And I'm sure that we will be able to cover some movies in the next episode, at least.
Bring it on.
Good, excellent. All right, my name is Matt, and again, thank you very much for listening to this episode on the podcast. Please, as always, the same thing is like and subscribe, or hit the follow link, or whatever it is, to make sure that you are following this podcast, so you can get the latest episode when we decide to release some more. So, my name is Matt. Thank you very much for joining, and this has been Reece's Reviews. Thanks to mygeekculture.com.au, and also produced by Matt Fulton Productions, which is mattfulton.com.au. Catch you next time. Bye.